I'm Andrew Phillips. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to replace the pressure switch on a Husky 33-gallon air compressor. Now this model number is C331H. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, an easy indication that your pressure switch needs to be replaced is if you have an air compressor and it won't shut off when it reaches the maximum pressure inside of it. That switch is what turns it off and on when that pressure is built up inside. So if you're encountering that, that's the part that you want to be replacing. Here's a diagram of the parts in this particular model so you can see what we're talking about. Next thing we do, I'm going to turn this thing on and show you what it's doing, and then we're going to grab the part, and I'm going to show you what the part looks like, and then we'll get down to business swapping it out. I'm going to connect this up to some power. We're going to turn it on, and I'll show you what we're running into where it's just going to keep running. I had to turn this off. You could see on the gauge we were passing the 150 PSI. It was like around 152. This particular compressor should be shutting off at 150 PSI. With that pressure switch being bad, it would keep running, which is dangerous. So that's what we're talking about. Normally that should be shutting off at that point and not continuing beyond that maximum pressure. So let's open this up so we can change that out, and then we'll test it again and see how it looks. And we are done. All the pressure has been released. I'm going to go underneath, we'll close that valve. By the way, if you do have an air compressor and you use it, it's good to drain the air out of it, and so that way moisture does not build up inside of it, because then you can get rust building up and then it can rust out. You can have problems. So usually whenever I use it, once I'm done, I usually go underneath, open the valve, drain it out real good, let all the moisture out of it, and then close it back up. That way it's nice and dry. So let me close that, and then we'll come back up to open this thing up. Valve is closed, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to unplug it. You don't want to be leaving it plugged in now that we're going to be opening it up. You want it free from any connection just to prevent any kind of accidents. Let me get a close-up here as we open up this canister here so we can locate the pressure valve and swap that out. Now this cover right here, it has little clips. Each one of these little indentations, there's a clip in here. So if you push that down with a flathead screwdriver, there will be a clip in there that we're going to see in a minute that goes all along the back here. However, what you want to keep in mind, coming along here, this is on the left side. Here's your switch right here. So right here, you have a T20 Torx screw in there. You can see that. And then there's another one right there. So you're going to need to get to those. And as you can see, it's pretty long fit in there. What I'm going to be using is just a ratchet type screwdriver with an extension, and then my T20 Torx bit in there. So this is what it's going to look like. That's enough to slide in there to take it off. Let's head over there and I'll show you. So if you're looking up, you can see this will slide in with that extension. We get it straight back in there, and we can remove that. And then we'll head over and do the other one. Yep, there we go. We got it. Next, we'll just take our flathead. You insert it here, as we mentioned, those clips, and we'll work our way here. You can pull it apart. We'll work our way up to this one. You see it splitting open easily. Coming along the back, same thing. Insert it in there, and then just open it up. And there's one back here. Open that. come here in the front, we'll open it, and you want to go gently because there's wires in there. But as we open it, you can see our pressure switch right down there. Let me get a close-up so you can see it. And there you can see it. Now you'll notice on the back of this pressure switch, we have these two female connectors. I'm going to take them off. So we're just going to, we got one disconnected here. And you want to, let's see, be careful that you don't damage anything. See if you can see it. Okay, they're both off. So now we can undo this, and then we can swap that out. That is another Torx screw right there. That's also another T20. You can see right there. So we'll take our, there we go, our T20 Torx bit, so we can remove that. Now the hose clamp that they use on these, they're not the type where you can unscrew them. They're kind of clipped on. So if you use a thin flathead screwdriver, you can get underneath and just lift it. Because otherwise you're not going to be able to get this out. This has a barbed edge going in there, so that's locked in. But we'll pull this off like that. So you can see now we have it off, and I'll get a close-up. See how it's lifted? But now this is, you can see how easily this rotates, so we can pull it out. So we've pulled that out a little bit more. And I'll remove this piece here. Now we can move this inside the hose. Give it a good pull. And it's starting to come out. You can see it's separating here. And there it is. It's out. We want to save this ring because we're going to need that. And this is the part that we're going to be replacing right here. This is your pressure switch. Here's our new pressure switch. It's the one that came out. And this is the part number, if you want to look it up by that. It's E106635. That's the actual part number for this Husky C331H. But let's open it up and we'll take that out and put it in. Let's remove this. And that's it. This little guy here is what controls the pressure to shut off or turn on. We have our new pressure switch. We're going to put that in and insert it. You want to make sure that you attach this little bracket around it first, because we're going to need that to screw in. But before we do that, and I'm going to get a close-up, but we need to take our ear hose clamp, our new one, because the other one's been destroyed, and we need to slide that in place. Let me bring the camera in here, and we'll put that in and put everything together so I can show you what you're going to need to do this. This is a 1/2-inch diameter hose that we have here. So we have right here our ear hose clamp, the new one. We're going to slide that on. Get it secured in place before we tighten it. Okay, now that that's on, here's our pressure switch with the bracket on it, and you want the bracket facing down like that. We'll take our barbed edge, feed that all the way down in like that. So the next thing that we need to do, you're going to need these ear clamp pliers right here. So that way we can crimp this right here. So basically, and let's see if I can turn it so you can see it. Let me bring the camera more on this side so you can see what I'm going to do. This is how the pliers will go around it. You have the ear right there, And the plier, you can see how the point goes around it. That way it can pinch it up in that corner and we can tighten it. So let's go ahead and squeeze it so we can tighten that on, and then that will secure it tightly around the barbed edge. And you want to be using these kind of clamps right here, these ear hose clamps. These are the best ones for air compressors, things like that for the lines. But let's get the camera position here and I'll show you. Give it a good squeeze to tighten it. There we go. And that's pretty tight. Let me get a close up. See how it's tightened right there? Nice and solid. That hose is very snug against that barbed edge. You can see it on this side as well. So now we're ready to attach this back. And this thing is, you can't even turn this. That's how tight that is. And that's what you want. You don't want to be using just regular hose clamps because they're not going to be secure enough for the pressure. Feed this back through. Line that back up and we'll get that torque screw and tighten that back on. Now you don't want to pinch the wires there. So we'll bring this in. Lower it right into position. Take our torque screw, put it in. Take our T20 bit, put it in by hand first, get it started, and then now we'll put it in there. Screwdriver ratchet. Okay. There it is. Nice and secure. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to bring these plugs back in, and it doesn't matter where you connect them, but we're going to put these back on. Put this one on first, and then we'll clip this one on here. Bring this through. Looks like this thing came off too. You want to make sure that these don't come apart like they did on mine. Put that back on there. That one's good. Make sure they're secure, which they are. All of that's on. Let me get a close-up so you can see everything in here, and then we can put this housing back together and fire it up. Taking a look, hose is connected with the ear hose clamp as we already did. This bracket has been fastened back on with the T20 torque screw. We have the two leads connected here on the back of the pressure switch. We had this one over here that disconnected, that's been put back. So if we pull back a little bit, everything is good. We're ready to seal up the housing. Let's get this out of the way. And this clips together the same way that we took it apart. So we're going to bring this down. Now you want to make sure you line up the two holes on the bottom because we have those Torx screws that are going to go through there. But we'll line this up here. Make sure we're good. Bring it together. Make sure you're not pinching anything. Okay, that looks good. Once you get it in place, it should just clip through. There we go. Got that one. And let's see here. This one's a little tight. You want to make sure that you've got everything lining up. Something's not matching right here. We'll get our flathead. I just want to see what's going on. There we go. Got that on. Come along the back. Same thing. And there's a little groove where you want to line it up. You want it in there. Right here. All right. Go over the whole thing again. Looks like we're good. Let's screw those 2 screws in and we'll fire it up. Everything is secured on. Let me make sure the valve underneath is closed, which it is. We'll plug this thing in and let's fire it up. Well, there you saw it. It's now shutting off fine, where before it would just keep on running. So cut off. I'm going to connect a power tool to it, a pneumatic. We're going to run it a little bit, let it use some, and see if it kicks back on as it's supposed to, and then we'll wrap up this video. I had to slide this back so I could connect it to my line. We're just going to take this DA sander. Just run it a little bit to let the air go through it, and then we'll see if it kicks on. I'm going to disconnect my mic. That way you can hear the room noise and hear when this thing kicks on. So there you saw it. Thing is working great. When the pressure dropped down to a certain point, the compressor came back on. When it reached its max, it shut back off again. When the old pressure switch was in there, it wasn't doing that. It was running all the way until the safety valve kicked in at that point and shut everything down. So this is working perfect. That wraps up this video. So if you have an air compressor that is not shutting off, then 9 out of 10 times it's going to be your pressure switch. As we saw here on this Husky C331H, very easy to swap out. We just took the housing off, took off the 2 T20 torque screws underneath, open that up, plug and play. The key thing is you want to make sure that you're using these right here, the ear hose clamps and the ear clamp pliers. You want to make sure that you use the right clamps. You don't want to be throwing cheap clamps on there and jeopardizing the pressure with that. That wraps up this video. I hope that this was informative for you. Please send me any questions and comments. I would love to hear from you. And as always, I appreciate all the support. So please like the video, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you next time.